Over the summer, families from West Euston Time Bank have been investigating our amazing brains. Through a range of activities and workshops, they've been exploring the theme of the brain: thinking, feeling, learning, remembering. Welcome Collection supported the project and invited a journalist, a scientist, a musician, a magician, and some animals to help.
Good girl, well done.
Our brain is incredibly important, but no one fully understands it. It's like the computer on a spaceship. We're not quite sure how it all works, but it monitors, controls, interprets, and records everything we do and experience. You couldn't function without it. But how would you describe your brain?
What do you think the brain is?
The brain is your mind.
It's your mind. And what would you say it looked like?
Squishy and sparkly.
Squishy and sparkly. Oh my gosh, you've got a beautiful brain. That sounds amazing. Thank you.
It's very hard working. So it makes contact with all parts of your body, like different parts of your body.
The brain is the main function of your body. When I tell you this, listen everybody. Without your brain you'll be mistaken and vain. Listen to this because you don't want to be a pain. The brain.
Scientists think that the human brain is the most complicated system in the world, and it is inside every one of our heads. It's made up of billions of cells called neurons that work by linking together and passing information between them. Each time you try something new, the neurons make new links between themselves as you learn. What does our brain look like? Scientist Lizzie Burns visited HPod and showed us how to make model brains, while explaining how our real brains are put together and the jobs that different parts of the brains do.
So they're going to learn about all the kind of insides of the brain, what's inside there, what the different parts do, what would happen if they weren't working, and then they get to sort of build up their own colourful sculpture of the brain. But I'm very much wanting to see it as a work of art, that everyone's brain is unique and different, although obviously we have so much in common. So everyone has a unique sculpture to actually bring home and to remind them about this project as well. So they'll have a lasting sort of brain sculpture, and I wonder whether they'll end up on the mantelpiece or in their bedroom. So here are some of the brains so far that we're making. So we're still in the process of making them, but building up different parts. So I'm seeing this as a chance for people to learn. By making, it's actually going inside their brain a lot more than listening to a talk. And it's also allowing them to get a feel for the three-dimensional nature of the brain, how the different parts relate. And there's a lot of relevance to that. So for example, memory and emotions are next to each other. And then that's next to an area to do with language. So they're sort of thinking about how they all relate to each other. And about our brain being plastic, that we can always learn and change and grow our brain. So through practice, your brain can become more powerful, or whatever it is you'd really like to do. Encouraging people to have fun, that's the best way of learning, really.
It's like plum.
Really soft tummy, isn't it? If you hold your hands flat, say, come on, little one. Oh, what a good girl.
Okay, well done, well done, well done. Okay, yes. I can feel the magic now. Pay attention, Edon, because the book was changed. And now...
Hey, sit down.
And find a photograph something astonishing.
One of the activities we did was a treasure hunt, with clues challenging us to find, identify, draw and photograph things relating to each of our 5 senses. We had to use our memories, our navigation and our logic skills too. Two of the treasure hunt clues were to find something green and something round. Everyone's seen green things and round things before, so brains use that experience to help find the right objects. Our brains use the minute differences between our ears to help us detect where sound is coming from, so we can find the wind chime that was hanging in the park and blowing in the breeze. When concentrating on a task like the treasure hunt, our brains are very good at blocking out the information we don't need so it can focus on spotting the objects we're looking for. It doesn't take much notice of the surrounding buildings, the sky, or the other people outside. This ability helps us concentrate on finishing an important task, or navigate our way through unfamiliar surroundings, or focusing on one person speaking in a crowded room. Some people have health conditions, which means their brains can't do this. They get overloaded with information because nothing's filtered out, and it's easy for them to get confused and disorientated.
Never eat shredded wheat. North, east, south, west.
Is apt for the best. That goes to. You ordered just amazing. Oh, I don't know what that is. I like it though. What's that?
Sweet.
It's sweet, isn't it? Well, what is it?
It's sweet. Can I smell it?
It's not sweet. That's why I don't know what it is because I can look inside.
It is sweet.
Ooh. What's the options? Fruity, flowery. What would you say that one is? Let us know.
Flower.
Our ears sense vibrations in the air which our brains interpret as sound. In the treasure hunt, we had to find things that make a noise. Our brains use the minute differences between our ears to help us detect where sound is coming from. Our brains are very clever, but they can be fooled. We tried some optical illusions and learnt how the brain can misinterpret what it sees based on what it expects to see. Both these faces look normal when we first look at them, but if we turn the block around, you can see that one face sticks out like a real face and the other goes the other way. Our brains are expecting to see faces that come towards them, so that's what we see, even though one of them isn't. Some doctors, called psychologists, use ink blots to work out how you think depending on what you see in the shapes. We made our own blots with paint and tried to work out what we could see. Did you know that all films, TV and animations, including this film, are actually made up of millions of still pictures? When we play them together at speed, our brains think that what we're looking at is movement. So our senses communicate information, but what about how we play and how we learn? The motor cortex is the part of the brain that controls movement and tells our bodies what we do when we dance or juggle or spin plates or play football. When we learn a new movement or skill, the neurons in our brain start talking to each other to make us move. The same messages are passed between the neurons each time we do the same thing, making the links between the neurons stronger and faster. This is why practice makes perfect. Your neurons are a bit like musicians in an orchestra. The first time they play, they might not be brilliant, but the more concerts they perform, the better they get at playing together. We discovered this when percussionist Simon Ray brought his instruments to H-Pod. To start with, the sound was awful because we hadn't learnt to coordinate, but by the end of the workshop, we were much better at working together to make a good noise. Our brains work so quickly that we're not even aware of what's happening inside when we react to something, like pulling our hand away if we touch something hot or ducking when something is thrown at us. This is called a reflex action, when the nerves in our body and the neurons in our brain work super fast to protect us from danger. When we think, what do our brains actually do? Funnily enough, we still don't know. or completely understand how thinking works. We know that we get pictures in our heads, and we know that we're able to learn and remember things like how to read, to do maths, and when to use capital letters. When we learn something new, our brains store the information to use. Imagine all the things that you've learnt. How to play games, moves in a dance, the buttons to press on an iPad, the words that we speak. We probably know more than 100,000 words by the time we're an adult. One of the local residents recalls a memory that always makes her smile. When serving up a mixed grill for her brother one evening, she presented sausages, eggs, potatoes, and what she thought was a lovely brown mushroom. Actually, it was a tea bag. Yum, yum. A memory can be triggered by almost anything. A smell, a taste, a particular voice, a piece of music, photographs, objects. When recalling a memory, we remember not only what happened, but how we felt. Over afternoon tea, we talked with some older residents from the estate about their memories of the past.
Who is your childhood friend?
My childhood friend was called Chantal. I went to nursery with her. We grew up together. We've been very close. And then she moved to America. We still keep in contact. We call each other every 2 days, and she comes over like once a year. So we're still very close. That's who my childhood friend was.
Our brain allows us to feel emotions like sadness, happiness, anger, and love. Messages go from our brains to our bodies, making us feel sick when we're nervous or smile when we're happy. Our emotions influence our behaviour. If we're scared, we want to run away. When something makes us laugh, our muscles relax. Sometimes we communicate our feelings without meaning to. Our body language, how we stand or sit and how we move, gives other people clues as to the way we are feeling. When the animals came to visit, it was clear that the humans were experiencing a range of emotions. But what about animals? Do they feel emotions too? What do you think? Lots of animals have some form of communication, but humans are the only ones, as far as we know, who use symbols and written language. This ability means we can keep records of events which people can still read hundreds of years later. We can communicate with people far away, and write down complex instructions for other people to follow. Of course, some instructions are clearer than others. We spent the summer holidays exploring and learning about our brains, but there's lots about the human brain that still needs to be investigated and explained. Will it be you who will make future discoveries?